all right, everybody. This is gonna be a pretty, I'd say, lengthy episode. I would say because this topic is a very lengthy topic, but I'm happy to be here with everybody. We brought a special guest back this time, Rocco. He's been on it with the Dead Space episode, and he was on the Red Dead Redemption episode as well.
Hello.
And those are two of our most popular episodes, so I had to bring him back for this one, the Elden Ring episode, the FromSoft episode, because listen, if you guys want to know someone who's poured his life, blood, sweat, and tears into this game, it's this man, Rocco.
And pain, lots of pain. But yes, thanks for having me again. I actually just recently beat an Elden Ring, so I can't wait to talk about all the exciting.
We have a real life Elden Lord in our midst.
Yeah.
I'm almost there myself. Yeah, we've been planning this.
We're not talking about that, Brendan.
Hey. Okay, I was moving on. I was moving on anyway. All right.
Brendan. Hey, I gotta give props to Brendan. Brendan is also very deep into this game. He's over. Are you over 120 hours?
No, I'm just over 100 hours.
Okay, that's pretty damn good. Me, I have so much damn idle time because I record on my PS5, so I'll leave it on. Yeah. I think I'm at like 340 hours.
Jeez,
not even close. Yeah, not even close. But I estimate I'm around 80 to 100 hours.
And you're doing a lot of just exploring. You said
yes, right? I'm doing a lot of exploring. So we'll get into that. We'll get into the different play styles on here, and obviously I got Show on the other mic. Let's not forget one of the best
I'm over here in the
on
cut.
the planet.
In the cut, you feel me? But dang, like, y'all gotta save some maidens for me and Cris, bro.
Hey, man, listen, when I get to the bosses, when I get to them, I'll get to them. But like I said, we want to talk about the different play styles when it comes to this game, right? So we're talking Elden Ring today. Obviously, this is FromSoft's most recent release. You would say it's a sequel, kind of, and it's a what do you
spiritual
call it?
successor?
A spiritual successor. That's right. To the Dark Souls series, really to everything that they've made, because in this game you have inklings of Sekiro with the armored suit with the katana. You can really start playing some Sekiro style with the blood slash, even right, the blood slash that you can get,
and the jumping mechanic in general. The addition of jumping,
yes, is very Sekiro-ish, right? Dark Souls never really had. They did have a jumping mechanic in the third one, but it's very wonky. And it was literally meant that you use it. But if you die, that was the point. We want you to die while you jump. But this game, they really fleshed it out. You can jump a lot better in this game. So, different play styles, right? This is obviously a game when it came out, everyone was talking about it's going to be difficult, right? It's a Dark Souls game. It's a Soulsborne. It's FromSoft. It's going to be difficult. But as we were mentioning earlier amongst ourselves in our own conversation, this is probably the first game from FromSoft where they are normalizing the difficulty of these games.
Yeah,
they're making it so it's easy for everyone to come on board if they want to.
Not easy.
Yeah. It's not making it easy.
It's very attractive for a lot of other people to come on board.
Yeah, and by implementing the open world,
easy for them to come in. Yeah, not an easy game.
It's because they implemented like the open world, settings, and like it's not like the Dark Souls games where if you get stuck against the boss, you're kind of like screwed if you can't beat them. You know what I mean? At least in this game, you can pick up and go explore like the thousands of other locations, or like do something else, and just come back to it later once you're leveled up enough or something like that. And so it's not just like it's still difficult, but but there's definitely not as much. Probably not as much.
It's not as linear, right?
Yeah.
So when you get to a boss, you're not stuck at it. Right?
And they give you more stuff too, I think, to like help you out in this game too.
Yeah. And in general, I think I've noticed, at least so far, obviously when it comes to Soulsborne games, there's a checkpoint mechanic where, you have to get to either a bonfire in Dark Souls, or you'd have to get, in this case, to a, what do they call
Site of Grace?
The Site of Grace, right? Usually in Soulsborne games, those would be spread really far apart. And when it comes to getting to a boss, there'd be a lot of times where there'd be a checkpoint, but it'd be far away from the boss, and you'd have to get through a onslaught of enemies to get to the boss. Now, you can run past them in those games, which eventually, once you figure out how to get to it, you can do, but you still have to get through those enemies. And there are times, Soulsborne is notorious for this, you'll just get hit randomly, and you'll get fucked up, and now you just died, and you lost all your souls.
So sad.
They always put people in the cut, like on the corners, and they just backstab you when you least expect it.
It's I feel like this game is doing a different job in that the checkpoints are a lot closer to the entrances of the boss fights, right? They're usually like right around the corner, or they're, they're not far away. Like you don't have to run a whole path to get to them again. When you get to the checkpoint, is the doorway to the boss is usually right there. You also got statues of America, right?
Yeah.
Which are usually placed around. They're these little statues
Right before boss fights.
right before boss fights, or areas with tons of enemies, right?
Mhm.
So in the gateway to Stormvale, in the Stormvale gate, there's actually a statue of America there, because when you walk through, what jumps out of fucking nowhere but a fucking troll from the top cliff, jumping down like he's Iron Man. And just landing on your face. Yes, that's how I died when I first encountered.
Oh, same. That scared the shit out of me when I was first playing. I was like, "What is this?" I saw the bar pop up on the bottom of my screen. I'm looking around. I'm like, "I don't see anybody. I think
I
I'm
see
good."
these guys
And
shooting arrows at
boom.
me, but they ain't shit, Like, but yeah, this guy jumps on top of you. So they've implemented many ways to ease that difficulty in a sense, but they're not changing the enemy difficulty. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's made it easier for people to come in and enjoy the game, right? Right off the bat in Dark Souls 1, right? Really quickly in the jail or in the prison, you have a boss right out the gate, right there. I believe it's the warden or whatever his name is, and it's hard for a lot of people to get past that first boss to then get into just the game. The actual game doesn't start until you beat that boss. So they've been notorious with that kind of barrier to entry before. Now you can get messed up by a boss, and you can just pick your sword up and walk in completely different direction, and you can enjoy yourself. Exactly. And you can go find all these different places and all these things. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's also just like, I don't know if it's just like the word of mouth or just like how this, the advertising or whatever for this game, how like the hype just spread. I feel like for this game, like nothing else in a long time. And I think that kind of like also helps encourage some people who otherwise wouldn't have even given it a chance to like, jump in and try it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think that along with obviously all the changes, I mean, because it also, I think some of the changes they made to make it easier for us is one thing, but then also on the other hand, they have made, I think some, not all, but some of the bosses are like, incrementally, like, much harder or exponentially much harder than some of the bosses from previous games. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure the hardest boss in Elden Ring is harder than the hardest boss in any former game, but there's also a lot of stuff that makes it like, easier for the player that they don't give you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could go ahead and talk about how many things you were able to do before you even faced the first boss, Margit the Foul Omen, right? A lot of people saying that he's one of the hardest first bosses in any game ever. He's insanely difficult. His moveset is very hard to predict, right? There's all these memes going around of he lifts up his staff and he'll stay there for 12 seconds.
Yeah.
You roll like 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you stop rolling, he smashes you, right? So he's been notorious so far for being a very difficult first boss, but it takes a lot to get to him. Even like you can go and search up the Weeping Peninsula. You can go there and there's bosses over there you can check out, right? So they really fleshed it out in terms of, this is the linear path, right? The sites of grace all have this like light pathway that they emit
that shows
you what direction to go into, right? But at the same time, that it's very, I love that they chose to do that, because it shows you that that's the pathway, but it's very faint. It's not very prominent. It's not in your face. It's subtle. It's there. If you want to follow it, you can. But hey, you got this whole world you can explore if you want to.
And I do like the way that they did that. Like with as hard as Margit was being the first boss, like he's the first boss. He's there as your barrier of just like, hey, I know you got this game and I know you think it's beautiful. I know you think it's fun, but just like, hey, if you want to get farther in this game, like this is what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
They made him more readily available when you start the game. Technically, once you start the game, you can run straight to Margit at a level 1 or 0, whatever you start off as. You'll get absolutely whomped, but you do have that access right away. I think it's just kind of like they put him there as like, you think you're good, but let me bring you back to reality and show you like you need to spend some hours in this game before you're moving on.
What I was gonna say also, what I think this game will do also is just like kind of what we were saying is like it's gonna like what is it? It's gonna like just make this level of difficulty, I think, better be more widespread in general and be more widely accepted than how it otherwise would have been. Because even though it's easier maybe in some aspects compared to other Soulsborne games, I think it'll suck people in, right? And then once they're sucked in, it's kind of like, all right, you're sucked in, you want to play this game, you want to beat it, but like you still gotta like get really good. You know what I mean? You still gotta like nut up or shut up. You know what I mean? Like you gotta like you gotta really like you gotta really learn how to do it. You gotta grind and you gotta like get in there and really like die over and over and over and over and over and get frustrated.
And I got a very similar feeling. And I think a lot of people do in this kind of game. Like when have we had another open world Dungeons and Dragons type of game where there is a storyline, but there's also go out and explore your own thing, do your own skills, and get your make your own journey and make your own story. Exactly. I don't think we've seen anything like this in 10 years, and I think part of it kind of is a nostalgic feeling, right? Because like you're like, oh my god, I haven't had this much fun since like Skyrim. I remember going into these different catacombs, going into this cave, getting this wild weapon that I first found,
and being whoever you want to be either.
Right, exactly. You were able to be your mage, you were able to be your warrior, or anything you really wanted to be. And I think this was the refreshing part of it, of just like, this is the next generation of Skyrim.
And it was more gritty,
Oh yeah,
difficult, way more gritty.
Yeah, Skyrim, you can set your difficulty. This is just like,
no holds barred.
Good luck.
On this one.
Have fun.
It's like, good luck. That's literally like the first message. As soon as you exit, good luck.
So, what do you think about the difficulty of this so far? Like going into it, right? So, what level are you right now? What would you say? You're 50 around there?
I'm between around 50. I'll say at most, like, definitely nowhere near like past 55.
So what did you think about, the exploration factor of the game throughout the first, I'd say, quarter of it, right? You're exploring and you getting to the first boss, I'd say, can take up a quarter of a game for some people, even though the game's much longer. But in terms of your full play time, you could probably take up a quarter of your game time just getting to Margit, right? You can run to him, but a lot of people, they'll explore, they'll do all these things. What do you think about it so far?
Well, most definitely off the rip, if you're new to From Software games, this is a great place to start. Just because you're not forced to do the linear playstyle how like it used to be. Whereas like you're kind of like, if you get stuck on a boss, you're gonna be there grinding it out until you get to that point where you can actually finally beat them. At least in this one, you can actually explore, get yourself together, find some crazy weapons that you wouldn't expect. And they're scattered around the whole map too, And I just feel like it's one of those games where you don't have to worry about learning the mechanics from the past games. It's like very beginner friendly, And the fact that any build kind of works in the game also is like a plus,
Yeah.
Because I know like like Dark Souls, everybody will always pick like a pyromancer and like follow that build.
That was like the cliche go-to that everyone tells you. Like if you're like a noob and you're starting out and you just want to like not die right away, that's what they tell you to be the pyromancer. But it's really however your place really depends on your play style. And I think that's where Elden Ring really succeeds, where Dark Souls not necessarily fails, but this is just much better because you can really
much more accessible.
Yeah, you can just create your own play style. Unique to you. You can just change all the attributes. All the different hero classes are decently spec'd to begin with. To like start off, and then you can really like go in whatever direction you want in a much easier, more accessible way.
Right.
Yeah. I guess that's the meat and potatoes of this game that they decided to do. I wanted to bring up a fact that one of the things that probably made this so much more mainstream than the other Dark Souls games is the collaboration with George R.R. Martin, right?
Yeah.
Again, even though it has come out that he hasn't been as involved as people thought he was, right? He was involved in the beginning stages. He fleshing out the lore of the world.
Yeah, exactly. He mostly helped out with like the world building and the lore and like all the backstory stuff.
And then they kind of just took it from there in terms of filling out everything else, the bosses and things like that, and their attacks, their movesets, and the game mechanics. But that collaboration, when it was first announced, as much as now in hindsight he wasn't as involved, that collaboration is what attracted so many people to be like, oh crap, like this game's gonna be crazy. Because what is George R.R. Martin known for?
Game of Thrones.
Exactly, right? Of one of the most famous shows of all time.
Books, and more so too.
Huh?
Books.
The books, yep.
He wrote the book.
Yeah, the books. But I'm saying in terms of how many people actually read the books. You know.
Well, yeah, but if you want to talk about the skill of world building, the books is where it really shined.
Yes, the books is where it's at, right? And with that collaboration, once they announced that, Hidetaka Miyazaki and George R. R. Martin, a world from these two guys, that's where it really gained that traction in terms of a lot of people paying attention to it as it came out. And it was very vague, right? It had that FromSoft vagueness in the trailer where it's just a bunch of random crap that looked amazingly cool.
Hard to decipher.
And yeah, just...
I remember seeing that trailer and I was like, yo, what is the game about?
but I wanna brandish the Elden Ring. That's all I knew by the end of the trailer. It's like I want whatever that is. I want it, right? So
I want it.
You knew that it was gonna be good because of the track record. It wasn't like it was two random people teaming up and it was a beautiful CGI trailer. We knew what the history was with Hidetaka Miyazaki, right? And we knew that from the initial days after they announced the trailer that it was gonna be this open world sprawling game that was going to encompass all of the projects that Hidetaka had ever done. And it's going to be his brainchild, right? The brainchild of them both, but mostly it's going to be his baby of utmost epic proportions, right? So now that it's out and now that it came out, there's been a sort of stigma out there. There's been a sort of rhetoric that's been flying around amongst a very minor few, right?
Yeah, the weak.
The weak-minded, I would say, but apparently these guys are Soulsborne FromSoft veterans.
Sure,
They played every game,
quote unquote,
since the beginning. Of course, this is probably claims, right? But they're claiming that this game is very copy and paste. It's not as unique as people are saying it is, and it's not a masterpiece, right? And I'm going to go ahead and read this Reddit post for you guys. And you guys let me know what you guys think, okay?
Don't get triggered, bro.
Now, there are spoilers here, but this is just spoilers for the names of the bosses and what they are. We're not going to show any images of them or anything like that. We're just going to go ahead and speak on their names and speak on the topic that this guy is talking about. So he's speaking on the amount of unique bosses in this game. Now, playing the game, if anyone's playing the game, I've encountered like a bazillion unique bosses, in my opinion. Right, I'm not as nitpicky as some people, but this isn't just him. This whole post, if I can get it right, was upvoted 78 times. It's got over 2,000 comments on it, and these people aren't just responding to him as if he's being asinine, right? They're actually fleshing out their explanations to him, and they actually want to explain it to him. But there's also people agreeing with him in terms of certain mechanics that they've introduced to Elden Ring that weren't there before. So he's saying there are 8 unique bosses only. And those bosses include Renala, Queen of the Full Moon, Star Scourge Radahn, God Devouring Serpent, Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy is an alternate name, Fire Giant, Dragon Lord Placidusix. Then you got Millennia, Blade of Mikela, Gorank, the Beast Clergyman, or Malekith, the Black Blade, right? And Radagon, the Golden Order, or the Elden Beast. That's it. Okay? Now, he goes on to explain that Margit, the Omen King, doesn't count because he's just a more fleshed out version of the person you face earlier on in the game. Margit, the Fell Omen, right? He doesn't count Godric the Grafted because he says that he is just a model reused with no changes in an optional boss fight. Now, I want to go... Is that really an optional boss fight?
Godric, technically, I think is an optional boss fight, yeah.
Knowing that, I don't see him as an optional boss.
Yeah, there's no way he's
if you think about the pathway right after Margit that you follow, it leads you right to him.
I think funny you say that, though. Sorry, but I was going to say, I was able to go through my whole playthrough. I mean, I beat Godric, but I beat Godric way after I've already beaten Renala. I went to... You can even get to the Altus Plateau without even beating Margit.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you only need 2 great runes in order to unlock that, and you don't necessarily usually like just most of the time like everyone encounters Stormveil and Margit and Godric in that order, and it all just happens that way. But technically, you can go to Caelid and fight Radahn. You can go fight Renala and kill them, and then get what?
Right. And Sorry, Brandon, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go for it.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say you can just get those great runes and then go to the Altus Plateau that way. You don't necessarily have to go through Godric, but like in that sense, it's optional because it's just the fact you need 2 great runes. It's not necessarily
Right. Yeah, and I'm
get
just gonna
them.
correct a little bit of that. Like that getting 2 great runes allows you access into Lindell, the capital. But in order to get there, there's 2 ways. You can either go underground and
the magma worm, right?
Yeah, right. You kill the magma worm, you get by there, and I think you have to go through. I don't know if you have to go to the Lake of Rod or someplace else, but you do have to go up a waterfall. And you get in this coffin, it brings you up a waterfall, it brings you to like the deep root depths underneath Lindell, and you can get up that way. Or you can kill 2 bosses. It doesn't even have to necessarily be Radon. Or I mean, like that's to get into Lindell. To get all the way up there, it's pretty easy. Like just Stormvale in general, the Stormvale Shack, and then there's this bridge that looks like it goes around Stormvale Castle, and like there's that little lady that's like, "Ooh, let me see your fingers. Ooh, yeah, your fingers."
And so you give her king.
Yeah, so yeah, she does. There's a bunch of them. They're all like, "Oh yes, so
I can
smooth.
read them."
Yeah, I don't know what else she's planning on doing with them, but I take my hand away real quick. But right at that bridge, and she's like, "Oh no, you're gonna have to go through the castle. The bridge is out." You look down. It's a platforming game. You can run around the whole fucking castle, get to Liurnia of the Lakes, whatever the hell that place is called.
Liurnia.
Liurnia. That's cheese number. I wouldn't even say cheese. They put it in the game. Like there is a specified path around Margit and Godric. And then once you're in the lake area, you can get up to the Altus Plateau without even a medallion. They call it in the lore in the game, I forget exactly who tells me. I think it may be the Albernorix or something. Yeah, I think the Albernorix tell you that there is that path, or there's the Coward's Way up. And the Coward's Way up is literally going to the most bottom part of the lake area, running towards the Altus Plateau, running towards like where the Dectus lift is. And you're in this like basement like area, and you have to like you basically climb like scaffoldings and ladders, and then there's like a mine area like place, and you eventually will get to an elevator that brings you up, and then bang, you're in the Altus Plateau without even having to beat the first boss. And that's kind of how I played. Like I beat Margit, but then I just started exploring. And that's the thing. Like I was able to do so much in the game where I'm like, shit, I'm so far in this. Like I'm so far back in this main story. Like I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here. But it's not like I cheesed it to get there, right? Like there are paths for you to just explore and do whatever you want, and not bound you to like you got to beat this boss in order to get here.
Exactly. And that's one thing I wanted to bring up as well, because I know that I've only beaten Godric, right? So that's 2 bosses for me. I beat Margit and I beat Godric, right? And I'm about 100 hours in. Now, you would look at it and say, oh, wow, bro, like, what are you doing? You know, like, are you just that garbage? Or are you, or are you really just taking your time to look at every blade of grass that you see on the ground and watch every NPC walk their path? Or something?
Everyone's
like,
got
what
their
are you doing
play
with your
style.
time, right? I'm doing the latter. I'm taking my time to explore this gorgeous world. Now, I'm saying that I've only beaten Margit and Godric, but those are the two of the main bosses that I'm saying that I beat. I'm just now finding out that Godric is an optional boss, and now looking at it, when you leave Stormvale Castle, the path that it takes you onto happens to be a path that you walk by to get to Liurnia of the Lakes, right when you meet Melania, or what's her name? What's the girl's name who's your maiden?
Melina. Is it Melina?
Melina,
right?
Melina.
Melina. So
Malina, Melina, like
whatever
different from Melania.
Melania.
Different than Melania.
Yeah, Melania.
That young girl, the blonde one that wears the cloak.
Yes.
You know.
So you meet her, and before she takes you, at least before she took me to the round table hold, she met me at this site of grace that's right outside the exit from Stormvale Castle after you beat Godric, which it was hidden in the trees the whole time. So if you happen to stumble across it, you could walk the back path and get to Godric and literally fight him and not have to go through all of Stormvale Castle. So there's like these secrets all over the place, right? But in terms of me, when I beat those 2 bosses, I then went to Seal for Riverwell. I beat the Ancestral Spirit that's down there.
So sick.
I beat the Dragonkin Soldier that's down there.
So sick.
I then went to I think about 2 or 3 Everjails. I beat a fire god that's in there. He's like this really big dude, and he's normal size, a human, but he's really fat, and he does fire attacks, right? I beat Balls, the Karian soldier, which is like the troll that's really big. He's in the Evergel as well, and he's really big, and he just got magic. He's a regular troll. He's armored and he has magic. That's through exploring. I had no business being there, right? I also found the dragon that's to the west of the entrance to Academy of Relucaria. So that's I found that dragon there. I walked right by him. I ran right by him on my horse. I had no business wanting to fight him, but I was just exploring. And I spent days upon days just doing this and going to different areas of the map, going through Kaled and getting completely demolished, but enjoying the scenery over there, right? I went to Dragonhorn's Barrow, where you can find the Black Blade Kindred, or the Kindred Blade, whatever it is that's over there. By the end, there's a sanctum, the beast sanctum.
Yeah, I'm about to say by the bestial sanctum. Yeah,
the bestial sanctum.
I just killed that big motherfucker.
Yeah, that dude is fucking
He's
huge,
really hard.
right?
Yeah,
So
really
I would try fighting him, and I'd die once. But then I found the farm over there where you kill those little guys, and they're 1,100 runes each.
Yeah, that
right?
was the first rune farm I ever found.
I actually found Stormhill first. I actually started riding around on my horse, and I started making all the trolls kill each other.
Yeah, that was the OG way.
And mind you, I'm not watching videos, so this is just being discovered, which is the way you did it, Rocco.
5,000 runes like every couple minutes, and you think you're fucking making bank,
like,
and
they
then
demolish the fuck out of each other.
Yeah,
on one
they
of
do.
my
It's pretty
videos,
entertaining.
one of my cinematic videos, the clip's there. They're destroying each other while I'm running away. It's just hilarious.
Loved it. It is hilarious.
And that's the kind of environment that I've been sucked into, right? Everyone's got a different environment they were sucked into when they played this game. Some of them have been sucked into the actual pathway towards the end of the game, right? They've gone from point A to point B, and they did it as quick as possible. And they went to Volcano Manor, they went to all those places, and they beat the game, and that's their experience, right?
Yeah.
And now they're exploring everything else. But I've gone the opposite way. I've decided to explore as much as I can and level up and get strong, and then face the bosses as I feel fit. And just facing Godric was awesome. He was still a challenge, but I was able to handle him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I got sucked into like the grind of it, but less exploration, but literally just like the grind, like I would just find like the best rune farms that I could, and just like would devote like I would like turn off the audio in Elden Ring and throw on like a podcast or something, and then just like farm runes for like 6 hours in a day or something like that for like a few days, and then like once I would like build up my however like my stats, I would keep respecing to like different room farms depending, until like now I'm like level like 200 and 205, something like that. And like I know it definitely like overdid it probably a bit. I definitely realized that. But you know what? It was a lot of fun because it's so much fun to like die a bunch and then like go spend like a few days like farming runes and then come back and just like completely demolish just like everything in my wake. And then eventually I hit I felt like I had stages. Like I like farm when I started the game. Like I just like definitely over farmed, and then I blew through like the first like I blew through like Margit and Godric and like all and Renala and like all like the beginning people, and then I got like stuck at Radon for a while, and I grinded again for a while, finally got through him, and then when I got to the mountaintop of the giant and there's like a steep difficulty increase and like the opponents you're fighting, then I again like spent like another like few days just grinding, and I was like, all right, now my strength is literally maxed out at 99, and I'm like leveling everything up accordingly.
Now speaking of flying through, did you guys play before any patches came out? And basically, did you guys get to experience the Sword of Night and Flame
Yes.
pre-patch? Because if you want to blow through bosses, you want something that was really broken.
Or the Mimic tier also.
The Mimic tier was broken to a point, but let me fucking tell you that you didn't have to do goddamn shit once you got the Sword of Night and Flame. I mean, like, the College of Winterhold, the Relucaria Academy, that place is really cool and it's extremely extensive and everything like that, right? And like, you do find the Sword of Night and Flame somewhere in there. You have to like drop off a place. There's a shit ton
much
of
easier than you would think.
Much easier than you would think, right? Because you're just like, oh, this is a sick sword. Like, I didn't have to jump through a million things, just had to jump in a couple places, and I'll let you guys figure out where to get that stuff. But let me tell you, it's not very hard, and for what it is, it melted. And when I say melted, it literally like 2-shot, 3-shot bosses that people, especially at least on TikTok and Instagram, they're like, oh, this guy's giving me a hard time. Like, nah, bro, just summon somebody, use them as a decoy, and just laser them 3 times and watch their health bar just completely diminish. Now, I'm not saying I cheese the entire game that way. Like, there are some bosses that, you know, don't scale or have like really high intelligence defense, so like it doesn't do diddly shit to them. And then now post patch, like you're not going to find that it does anywhere near the damage that it used to do. But if you were getting pissed off, or if you just were like wanting to grind out a dungeon, just get through, like, I want to get this thing, that sort of Night and Flame was one of the cheesiest things for the first week of the game in any From Software game I think that I've played.
I have to agree with you, man. That sword, from what I saw, because I got the game a couple weeks in, right? So I missed.
It was already nerfed.
Not just a few things. I missed a lot of things that were patched out. I think the day before I got it was the first huge patch where they nerfed a few things, and then everything. You know, there's still stuff they need to nerf.
Right.
There's other exploits that they found now, but before then, like there was a lot of, the game was in a sense kind of fun. Because you would find these things and you could just destroy, right, every part of the game, but it was breaking the game. So,
absolutely. I mean, like, you're gonna get that with any open world game like that, right? Like, and I know we talked about that on our previous Red Dead podcast. Like, there are gonna be things that you find that are like, hey, you know, this isn't right. Like, and this game was only 6 years in development. I say only because this game is effing massive. You know, there are so many things into it.
I don't think I will ever find everything.
Right.
There is.
So
if they add DLC,
I can understand there are some inconsistencies that might have not made it through or did make it through QA and weren't even noticed because of the amount of people that are playing this game. You know, and I get it.
But come on. Who was in control of that slider for the Night of Sword for the Sword?
Right, exactly. Like, I think when
they were trolling,
it just took them so long. Like, I think I saw it on TikTok on like the second day. Like, granted, I got the game I got the game the day it came out, and I've probably spent more time playing that game the week it came out than I actually did 40 hours of work that week. But you know what? Like, I was all caught up. I made my deadlines. We were good. But that game was just like, once I discovered like you can use this, I tried to use that as much as I can. Like, even General Radon, like, he had to get nerfed to a point because I think I spent a good day and a half, and maybe I'm just hot garbage, you know? I don't know.
I mean,
I spent a good day and a half on him.
No, bro, you're fighting Ganondorf.
People were getting past him. I had no idea how people were getting past him.
Yo, I had to cheese him with the rotten breath. That's the only way I could get past him. That's the only way I could get past him.
The article that came out for him about how you can make him kill himself.
Oh yeah, you stand on the edge now, so like when he goes into phase 2, he just dives into the water and dies.
Oh really?
What?
Oh man,
yeah, bro.
I didn't know
IGN
that.
I think I literally just saw that an hour or two before this. I wasn't even looking for anything Elden Ring related. I was just scrolling on TikTok, and it was like, you know, like that AI voiceover, new Elden Ring cheese, and it was, and the guy was just standing on like the edge of the map where the beach is. Radon's like entering his second phase, where he's like that meteor coming from the sky. Right. So technically he lands right in front of you, but right in front of you is the end of the map. So he just flies right into you, and then you just hear instant death, gone.
Like, you know,
he stays up.
I wish this shit was out when I was fighting him. What the fuck?
Wait, you know what's funny? Like how long it took for someone to find that out.
I know.
You know, like you know how many bodies, you know how many bodies this dude was catching before someone finally thought of that.
Oh, absolutely. But there were other cheeses before that, too. Like, I guess my cheese to beat him is I stayed on a fucking horse the whole fucking fight. And all I did, I just summoned everybody because, I mean, like, this is before I figured out, like, how important Vigor was. I think
that's a valid way to fight him.
I was, like, 15 Vigor for a very long time.
What,
so I'm like, I'll just dodge everybody. I'll just dodge everything until I got to Radon. Then he was literally one-shotting me for everything.
Oh, yeah, with those arrows in the beginning, he would one-shot you with your head.
So frustrating. No, any sort of hit on anything, even if I dodge the arrows and, like, he's flying around, I've gotten him to, like, he's literally a one-hit, and those goddamn fucking meteors that are over his head just like, hey, I'm gonna release these right now. They're hanging over his head for like 5 minutes, doesn't do anything.
Dang,
when he's a one-shot, man, I fucking tell you,
I can't get over that, bro. 15 Vigor.
Yeah, I made it that far in the game, at least with 15 Vigor. Yeah, I started off as a confessor. And I just poured everything into faith, intelligence.
Yeah, he's got strength and other.
And then, like, you know, I did crack a toe to a point. When you're getting one shot that much and you're on one boss for over a day, like, I had to go to Renal. I had to respec. I had to be like, all right, like I need some health, man.
Well, speaking
like...
of builds now, like speaking of builds, what what's your final builds and what's your go-tos for games like this?
Right now, my final build, you know what? Actually, I'll let you guys go because I'm a New Game Plus.
Right.
So like, there's a lot of things that I've seen that you guys haven't seen yet. So I'm curious to see what you guys.
I
have
guess
first.
I'll go first. For right, at least my right now, I think I said I'm level like 205 or something like that. I forget exactly. I know my greatest stat is my strength, because I have what is it? My strength is at 99. I have Radahn's great swords. You know, I dual wield them. I got them plus 10, so they're like, you know, the strongest they you know they can be pretty much. And what is it? I got strength 99. I got vigor is 40, endurance is 40. My what is it? My faith I think is 35. My intelligence is 20. My mind is 25. My arcane I never touched. I think it's like 11 or 12. And I think that's it. Is that all the stats? I think.
So
I would
important,
think so.
actually.
There's-
And
Yeah, that's all of them.
and I have
Yeah.
what is it? I wear Radahn's armor, but all except for the helmet, I'm wearing what I forget the name of the helmet. But you know that really fat armor. You know what I mean? Like the really round, like flat brimmed like helmet.
Oh yeah.
I always wear that helmet. 'Cause I
Wait, the
think it looks
Kung Lao
hilarious.
helmet?
I don't know. It's just
Yeah, the one that's like really flat and circular.
I guess it
Yeah,
kinda looks
that's the
like
Kung Lao
yeah.
helmet, bro.
Yeah. I use that one. It looks cool.
And it goes really well with the Radahn armor.
Yeah,
I have to say.
but it's great because my weapons scale with both intelligence and strength. So my strength is maxed out, and I've just been whatever leftover points I have now, I just throw into intelligence because I just wanted my faith high enough where my rotten breath is going to be effective to help reduce damage. While I'm kind of like that's like my play style, just get big hits and then hit them with the rotten breath and.
So looking at, obviously we could go into builds and everything, but everyone's different, right? Everyone's got their own way of making their build. It's mostly about also how much time you put into a build, right? So the more time you put into it, the more it becomes yours, the more it becomes unique. But speaking of unique builds, boy oh boy, has this game had some unique builds, man.
I've
There
seen a lot of like meme
have been
builds.
some hilarious builds that have come out in this game. If people are every day something new is coming out. And you showed me one the other day. That shit was hilarious, bro. What do you remember what you showed me that day?
I remember I sent Rocky Balboa.
Yes, that's the
Oh,
one, man.
They
those
played-
are awesome.
They played the theme song and he
Bro,
was like
those-
going around punching people.
I don't get no bill.
He had the boxing gloves. They obviously made the person look like Rocky.
Adrian.
And there's even a scene in the video where he's like punching a pole practicing. Like it's just the best video ever.
I wanted to make that
build.
build, bro. I was like, I want to find out what they did just so I could just try it in the main game and troll.
And it was melting, bro. He was really handling a lot of enemies.
I need no
Easily.
bill.
I think he had the Bloodhound step as well. Like, he was doing so
Yo,
many
it's
things.
because like he had a good amount of speed too, where he was just like throwing literal combinations.
Wait, do you guys remember when I sent you the Sonic the Hedgehog one?
Yes.
That was
yes,
hysterical.
I remember
That
that.
was hysterical. I forget. I don't know how they did that, but it must have been something with magic. I don't even know. But
Electricity.
that
He had
was
electricity
hilarious.
all around
Yeah.
him, and he would roll, and it was I don't even know how that was possible, man.
I didn't even know
But
it was a
then
thing.
again, these are all just move sets from the game
Yeah.
that you can create your character however you want. It goes to show to the testament of the character customization.
Or
you
remember,
have in this
also there
game.
was the Kratos Spartan Rage build. We also remember we
Yes,
saw
which
that.
was
That
amazing.
was
The
awesome.
whip.
Yeah.
Oh man, that shit was fire, bro.
Yo,
Like,
but
there's-
we also didn't. The rest of you guys, you got to talk about your builds also, because I described mine. The rest of you guys got to describe yours. I can't be the only one.
so right now, I was donning pretty much the whole time I was donning the Twin Greaves set.
Uh huh.
So there's a few ways you can get the Twin Greaves set. I just got it by killing the guy immediately, and I took his whole armor set. I believe if you go through his quest line, he's right after you. I want to say he's right after you beat. I'd say like Margit, and you get through Stormville Castle, right after you get through that whole area,
Mhm.
and you're going into the Liornia area. On that pathway, you can find him, and he's with his twin or something like that, and he's standing over the body, and he's like telling you like don't go into that village that's over there, like there's only death in that village, and if you go, there's like this boss in the boat. He's reused a few times. He's in the boat, and he has a horn, and he just summons up these skeletons. and then you have to try to beat him. Have you guys ever faced a boss like that?
I seen him. He be in like the lake, and he's like a spirit, right?
Yeah, he's a
Oh, on a
spirit.
boat?
He's in a canoe. Yeah, he's in a big ass canoe. So right before that, this guy's standing there, and if you kill him, you can take the armor set, which that's just me being a troll in the game. I even killed the guy at Castle Morn, like the one that the father of the girl, like right before you enter Castle Morn.
Oh no!
I killed
Oh
him
yeah,
immediately,
that's right.
and I took his spear, and it was +8. I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
Let's go! And from now on, I'm killing everybody. So
That's
then
a
I
pretty
went
sad side quest anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
she
I
dies
heard, I heard
anyway.
that you go back and she's gone, like she was killed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Right?
he had to like stand there and he's like, I had to keep watch and leave my daughter there. And then he's like, all right, daughter, I'm coming back. She's dead. And he's like, oh no, she died because I wasn't here to watch her. Like, yeah, no fucking shit, bro.
Yeah, duh. What do you expect?
Worthless.
You
I
get
was
being a
happy I
shitty
killed the
dad.
guy. So I ended up getting that. So I was donning that Twin Greed set the whole time, which is a very heavy set of armor early in the game. Because my endurance, I put everything into strength, and I put more into vigor, but it was more into endurance. So I was more of a strength endurance build in the beginning, and I was just trying to don the set, but I wasn't far enough to don the set. Like I had the strength to do it, but not the endurance. I was fat rolling everywhere. Now I got a scale armor with a great sword, the Banished Knight's a great sword, and that I got from Storeville Castle. It's like a +8 right now, and I have a Jellyfish Shield, which the Jellyfish Shield, a lot of people don't have it, and a lot of people either just leave it behind because they find something better. I haven't found anything better than this shield. This shield is fucking amazing. It has a R2, I believe it's an Ash of War, that you pretty much you press R2 and it just ups your stats by like 5. And it scales with your level. So if you keep scaling it up, obviously that buff is a lot higher. So I've had that, and then that's pretty much it. That's all I've had. I'm a light armor set with a great sword and a Jellyfish Shield, and that's pretty much it.
Oh man.
So and it's all strength and endurance.
I'm a
and my vigor is at 26.
I'm a casual fucking gamer compared to you guys. I literally only made like a tank class with a sword and shield, heavy armor. And
I feel like
that's all you need at first, man. That's all you need.
What a loser.
Hey man, I'm over here like being a traditional knight. I'm over here like, all right, I'm gonna go in here and take some damage, and I'm gonna just be like guts, bro.
That's how I started out. I mean, I was a confessor. I was sword and shield, man. That's the way to go. Especially like if you're still getting a lay of the land and like feeling the game out, like just being able to hold that left bumper or L1 and just be like, yo, bro, give me some time, like, and be able to block some shots before you just get absolutely murked every time.
And that's
like,
the thing. I noticed
totally helpful.
With my build, I like my poise is very high, so like people when they hit me, they just stagger themselves. I'm like, oh, that's sweet.
Oh, perfect.
And I've always been trashed with like agile characters anyway, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just be a tank and basically just be like a basic strength build.
Yeah, man. I feel like that's where a lot of people see. That's the thing with this game, right? If you're talking about coming from Dark Souls games and all of that, and you know about the builds, and you know that there's a lot of variety in terms of directions you can go and effects and buffs you can have, then you'll play the game that way. You'll play the game what's considered the right way, right? You'll really give yourself a lot of variety. But for the people that came into this game and they haven't really played like the past games so much, or if they did play the past games, they played this way, right? And sword and shield and knight's armor, then they're gonna go to that. But because this game opened itself up to so many more people, right? I believe wasn't it a record at one point for the amount of people playing Elden Ring on Steam?
Yeah, it was the record for like the most concurrent players at a time.
It was
like it was like something like 800 something thousand or something like that. I forget.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And just that alone lets you know that this is a much. This broke the demographic in terms of how many people are playing a FromSoft game. It shattered it.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's so you're automatically opening yourself up to a wider audience, to people who aren't as experienced. They don't know about the acid effects. They don't know about the rot effects. They don't know about all that stuff, right? Like that's a whole nother layer to the game. If you can get yourself past the point of sword and shield and armor and all of that, and then start learning the buffs and start learning the effects and what effects hurt more other enemies more than others, like that's like behind the curtain, right? That's behind the veil of Elden Ring. And if you could get to that, then yeah, you'll enjoy the game. It'll be a completely different game for you. But because so many new people are playing it, that's the route to go, right? Sword and shield, tank build, get all your strength, your endurance up, because you want to be able to run everywhere. You want to be able to do as much damage as possible, and then bring your health up, right? Those 3 categories are where everyone goes. I guarantee you there's a bunch of people who didn't touch Faith, they didn't touch Arcane, they didn't touch Intelligence. Like, they just stayed at those top 3 because that's what they're familiar with in a way, and they're comfortable with that set. And,
well, I didn't touch Vigor for the longest time until I was about to crack a toe 100 hours into the game or 50 hours into the game. I mean,
that's insane, bro.
Let me tell you, that B button got lots of use on my controller.
But I feel like
lots of use.
Just jumping around like Yoda.
B button very soon.
I feel like putting too many points into Vigor gets to be a waste after a while when you have like flasks that can, like, if you have like enough, if you have enough sacred tears and enough, of the whatever to like get enough.
Yeah, man. I didn't even do Vigor like that. I had +6 on the flask early on.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because part of that has to do with exploring. If you explored everything and you didn't do all these bosses, like when you beat a boss, like, you get their great runes and stuff like that, which you can only activate with the greater rune. That's a whole other like thing. But when you go around to all these different bosses, like, that's all you get. You don't get this like, additional thing that'll help you go throughout the game for the most part. Yeah, you'll get like another weapon or something, but let me tell you, golden seeds and sacred tears will really drive you through the game. If you don't even need to beat the bosses for you to have like all, like, I don't know, 10, 12, what is the max, 14 sips of flasks that you can split between your red and blue. I think I had like 7. I think my setup was like 7 reds and 4 or 5 blues by like the time I was at Godric, just because you're running around the whole time and you're just like, oh, sacred tear, like, oh, like, golden seed, another golden seed, and you're just like upgrading all these things for free, like, it's just a little bit of exploring. Like, you don't need to beat the bosses and stuff.
Granted, I have 0 on the blue flask. 0.
Dang. Oh, see, like, I had a few different builds. I was a confessor. I guess I'll say my build now.
That.
Yeah. I've gone through a few others, and I do like your point before, where it's like, there is not a setup or a build for you to play the game. It's whatever setup that you can play the game at. You can really go to the game with any kind of setup. My first setup, similar to shows, I was, sword and shield, like, just
tank
don't fucks with me,
it
man.
out.
Like, I didn't even tank it out, though, because I didn't pour anything into Vigor. The only reason why I wanted the shield, I was just like, yo, man, I need to get adjusted to this game. Give me some time. Like, they're smacking me, and I'm just holding, like, LB the whole time, spamming B, rolling away, and like I run out of stamina, and then I'm holding there with the shield. They hit me with no stamina, I'm staggered. Now, I started learning all that stuff, but then I found the Sword of Night and Flame. Did do a little cheese for a little while. I do have to say, like, when things do get depressing for a bit and you're getting fucking whomped by every corner,
it's like, that's it, you're gonna make me do it.
Taken out. Yeah, exactly. Don't make me do it. I'm gonna do it. And like, you do take out your nuke in a sort of sense. You're like, bah! Melting all of these guys. Makes you feel a lot better. It puts you back into the game, and then, you get you beat these bosses, you find some other cool stuff. And I do have to say that there hasn't been one build I went throughout the entire game. I have struggled at a few bosses that are like, if you're a melee build, it's good for them, right? Because they're huge. Like, an example would be like the Fire Giant. I think I was more of a faith and intelligence build. I was doing more incantations and spells, like especially Rock Sling early on in the game. Like, that's so great. Like, you don't need a bow and arrow. That thing just does a lot of damage. But and anything that was a big boss, it was always a challenge. Like, either it wouldn't reach them because they're just huge and it would just like drop off, or it wasn't feasible. Like, you didn't have time to set up and cast your spell, or like your incantation wouldn't reach. But like for bigger things like that, like I would have to respec into somebody more of a melee thing, so you can actually go up to them and what are they doing? Like, they're hitting underneath, kind of like a giant, right? But the Fire Giant's extra big, and he can't really hit you accurately until he has to roll away.
Mm-hmm.
There were other bosses like that. I did have to respec 3 times. But I have to say, the way I ended the game, without giving any spoilers away or anything like that, I did finish the game after the first patch, and I think a lot of people didn't put didn't put points into their Arcane, like Brendan, because Arcane was actually broken in the beginning of the game. I remember I got the Rivers of Blood, and I did a build with like a blood build, and it was absolute ass. And I'm like, what is the hell the point of this? Like, I put my Arcane up to like 25 or 30, and I'm like, there's no difference here. I'm getting fucking spanked. Then like this patch comes out, and they're like, oops, RB, Arcane was broken, Blood's OP now. And so then I respect again. I think I put my arcane to 40, dropped my intelligence. I'm like, I'm not going to be casting spells anymore if I'm going to be doing like this blood loss, incantation, like faith thing. And let me tell you, like, that's what got me to finish the game. Not to say it was broken either. Like, still a very tough fight and many hours were spent there. But I did have the patch did kind of help, like, make a little more make your builds a little more diverse, because I guess there was a little bit of a broken thing, and I think that's part of the reason why, Brendan, you didn't do arcane, because I'll tell you, it didn't do fucking shit and when in the first patch.
Exactly.
So there's obviously a lot of depth to this game, right? I mean, we can go in many different directions, and we can go for hours speaking on any different, anything that comes up in our head when it comes to this game. Builds, weapons, different all kinds of weapons that you can find in this game. They're everywhere, right? And mage staffs and things like that. And then you can go into what drives most FromSoft games, all FromSoft games, right? Is the story, right? The lore behind everything is what drives this game, and is what drives everyone in terms of the intrigue that you have going around everywhere, because FromSoft is notorious for having this deep lore to all their games. You stumble upon a location and you're instantly just thinking, what purpose does this location have?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the history? Like, when was this shit made? You know what I mean? Like when was it constructed? How long has it been around? Like, who's been in charge here? Like, how many children lived here? Like, different shit like that. Like, it just goes through your head because that's how deep FromSoft has been. So let's get into that. Let's get into the lore of the game, at least what we know so far, because while there have been a lot of interpretations that have been released, very solid interpretations, even they themselves, whoever has released it, you look at YouTubers like Vatividia, you look at many media outlets out there who have taken it upon themselves to make the lore, even they say a lot of this is open for interpretation, because that's what FromSoft is about, right? Nothing is solid. It's up to you to interpret what's going on. There are very solid points in the lore that are always there, but there's so much surrounding it that is up for interpretation.
And it's piecing together so many different fragments too.
Exactly. Kind of like the shattering of the Elden Ring, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, see what I did there? Yeah. So we're gonna start off with the beginning of everything, right? So apparently, in this world of the lands between, it isn't just about the lands between, right?
No.
There's this whole idea present that there are cosmos out there, that there are gods in those cosmos, and that is where everything really begins.
Yeah,
right? It begins from the outside coming in to the lands between. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, and then also obviously like Queen Marika is like the queen over the whole land, and I think most of the demigods in the games are her children or something like that.
They're all her children,
right? Yeah, I was gonna say they're all her children, right? And then I forget what exactly happened, but she like left and then like shattered the Elden Ring, right? And then all the other demigods like seized the shards, and started fighting over the different shards for power because they all were driven mad by it.
Right. Yep. So it kind of gives me a sense of like Lord of the Rings,
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
A little inspiration from them. Nice little touch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, out there, it really begins with the greater will, right? So the greater will is this force, right? That's at the beginning of everything, right? And he has these sort of soldiers everywhere called the two fingers, right? The fingers, right? They're everywhere. At the top of every, not to spoil too much, but whenever you beat a rune bearer, in order to activate that rune, you have to go to the top of a rune tower, pretty much. And at the top of that tower, there's like this figure there. It's the two fingers that belong to that tower, and they're all kind of like deceased. They're all gone, right? I haven't visited all of them, so I'm not sure. So far, the one that I visited for Margit, for Godric, was a deceased two fingers that were up there. Whenever you go to activate a rune and you get to the top of these towers, these two fingers are there. So according to the lore that has been perceived so far, Vatividia and the outlets, the fingers are these sort of messengers for the greater will, right? That they don't really do anything unless the greater will gives them guidance to do it, or they don't give guidance unless it's from the greater will, right? The greater will then sent the Elden Beast to the lands between to rule it on its behalf, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of been the hierarchy in a way to start off everything. But then obviously later on it became the Elden Ring. It wasn't just the Elden Beast, it was the Elden Ring, right? So in terms of the fingers, there's been plenty of them, but apparently they've been dying out. Right now, again, you know more than I do. Everyone in this chat knows different portions of the lore. That's as far as I know, is that they have this hierarchy of Greater Will, Elden Beast, and the two fingers that are all throughout. Now, the two fingers is just a term. It's not that they're only two fingers. It's these kind of entities that are everywhere on these towers, and they're in the Round Table Hold. The one in the Round Table Hold, if you look at it, it's got very long gray hair coming off of it, right? It seems to be really old. It seems to be one of the only surviving one, right? And whenever you're going to it, like the few times that I've gone to it, they kind of stand up stiff at some points, right? That's when they're receiving messages from the Greater Will, or they're receiving guidance. And then when they bend back down, they're then communicating, right? If it's through those old ladies, they're always there next to them, and they're sending messages. Now, going on to the next part, because I'm going through a few articles here, just trying to get my memory back about what I've been reading these past 2 weeks. Among all of that is one of the most shocking facts that have come out from all of this is the idea that Radagon and Marika are the same. This would mean that Marika sent an extension of itself to manipulate Renala, then ended up calling Radagon back to her. Vatividia says that there are hints which strongly suggest this, but again, it's still something open up to interpretation. So there's so much when it comes to this lore, right? And obviously, it's going to take a very long time before people are able to really piece it together from beginning to end.
Yeah.
There's just too much going on. And then obviously there's not just this lore of the main story, what's driving everyone to get to the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. But then there's just going to be the lore of every city that you walk upon, every lift that you see, every house that you find, every shack, all these artist paintings that you find everywhere, right? There's a whole lore to that too, in terms of why these paintings are in these random shacks everywhere, giving you clues as to where, these awesome, albeit I found a couple of them, they're pretty whack, but I'm going through them, and they're apparently they're these like little treasure maps that you find in all these shacks, right? So the depth is just insane, and it's something that can't really be covered. We would have to do a whole 3-hour video to go through it, right? But just listening to what we've been saying now, there's a depth to it that's just really driving this, and it's amazing to look at and to see that this is even possible. Because if you look at the depth of everything, every time you look at it, you're like, how did they have the time? How did they have the time to create this here? Like with all that they've created already, every time you turn a corner, there's a whole nother story to find out. And that's the beauty of Elden Ring, right? That's the beauty of it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The combat is amazing. The builds are amazing. The boss designs are amazing. But at the end of the day, it's the depth to the world that they built. It really makes you want to live in it, and it makes you want to lose yourself. And as many people say, Elden Ring can consume you. And it has consumed a lot of people. So you guys have any final thoughts about this game?
This game is definitely a genre defining, probably going to influence the industry going forward kind of games, So if you haven't played it yet or even read into it, now is the time,
Yeah. I mean, most of this conversation that I really wanted to have was just to give people the tip of the iceberg on a lot of different aspects of the game, right?
Exactly.
And everything we touched on, it's the tip of the iceberg.
Can I give an honorable mention to other trolls? There's a guy going back to builds. He made a very specific build, and apparently it's so fucking goated. And it's this guy. He would join your world, and he walks up to you. He doesn't run or nothing. He just walks, and he smacks the shit out of you, and it's a one shot. And he's called the right hand of Will Smith.
Yes. I was about to say.
Yo, his name is Will Smith, man.
His name is Will Smith.
Yeah, that's too fucking good. That's too good.
Yo, it's
The
again,
internet's
the
undefeated.
depth to the customization, there will always be something that they create because you can create anything, and with all the different combinations, like someone's gonna get creative and do something.
And also,
I'm waiting for a Goku.
Also, have you guys remember real quick? Have you also seen like the mods, like some of the PC mods? Like, I remember, I think I sent you guys a video of like they made a mod of like the Tree Sentinel was Shrek riding Donkey, and you know the
yes, I remember.
Oh my god!
and like as the guy
hilarious.
fighting was playing as like Homer Simpson fighting against Shrek.
Yeah. Oh
my
man,
God.
the creativity is never ending.
Yeah, and once the modders have more time with the game too, they're only gonna create more wild stuff.
That's
with all the
hilarious.
assets they can get in that game.
Wow, I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, right.
It's just we're gonna come back. We're gonna revisit.
You
this
need a part 2,
in
bro.
about 6 months. We'll revisit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, give it a little bit of time.
We'll call it Elden Ring Revisited or something, and we'll come back with a completely different take on this game. Maybe even have a deeper understanding of the lore and everything. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I mean, it was pretty all over the place, but that's what Elden Ring is. Everyone has such a different experience that it's really cool to get everyone under one roof and see what everyone's been discovering and what their experience was like. So definitely been awesome. I thank you guys for coming in again. Drop a like, subscribe if you enjoyed it. Hit up the Instagram page, Filmic Gaming, and follow there. I got nice little clips that I put there from my past videos that are super enjoyable and kind of action packed,
Epic.
And then I got my full videos here on the channel that I do. And also wanted to give a shout out to our other podcast that we have, the Life is Strange podcast, which you just got a new logo for, which is fucking dope.
Oh man, I'm proud.
Thank you, Spooky
drop that, man.
Oh man, Life is Strange Pod _. You already know we talk about anything and everything except politics and religion, because fuck those topics. People get too butthurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I love it. I love it, bro.
Those are conversations for weak-minded individuals.
Seriously, yo.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Rocco for coming in, bro. You're the most experienced Elden Ring player I've encountered so far. I'm sure there are more, but you're up there, man.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good
thank
thing.
you for coming and giving me time, bro.
Yeah, Rocco.
I appreciate you for having me, and I'm glad I'm able to share some of my pains and experiences with you all.
Yeah,
I've definitely earned a few gray hairs playing the game, but I definitely encourage you and everybody else to give it a try.
Save some maidens for us, bro.
Save some maidens, please.
Yeah, they're maidenless over here, man.
Seriously,
Yeah.
I'm maidenless, bro.
All right, y'all. This is Filmic Gaming Podcast. Peace out.